It's not hard for me to be against socialism. When the Chinese had the land farmed in socialism, they were starving. And finally, a bunch of starving Chinese peasants got together and said, each one of us is going to take a farm for his own self. And even if we die, we're going to do it. And so they divided up the farms with each one having his own farm. And of course, the grain production went up like 20 times in the first year. And in a world where something like that can happen, if you're a pure socialist, you're a nutcase, an absolute nutcase. And not a modest nutcase, a real nutcase. So somebody like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, both of them very smart people and both quite admirable in some ways, but they just never quite learned what Adam Smith, just some basic facts of life they didn't learn. We can't help, if we want a productive society, we can't help but have these personal incentives to handle your own affairs. And if you do that, you get unequal wealth outcomes. So the price of plenty is that you can't have socialism. That does not mean that the rich societies of the West can't have a bigger social safety net than they do. That's a perfectly permissible way to think. In fact, I would argue that it's evil not to be in favor of a reasonable social safety net if you're an affluent nation. And I don't think it matters a lot whether the top tax rate is 38% or 42% or 26%. I think when you get income taxes 60, 70, 80%, you get total perverse behavior and you start hurting the economy. Mm-hmm. So even if it would serve your sense of equality, what it'll do is reduce the amount people are eating. So I think it's pretty simple. And of course we've got to have capitalism. And of course somebody like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren is a little nuts. And they've got high IQs too. But one thing I've noticed in a long life is that you can be a perfect nut with a high IQ.